Loud. My pregnant wife got her nose broken by fake HOA enforcers, and the reason? Our untrimmed lawn. Apparently they said it violated landscape standards. Funny thing is, the only thing that got cut short was them after I got home. Let me start from the beginning. Before we dive in, let me know where you're listening from today. The scream didn't sound like my wife. It didn't even sound human. It was sharp, short, the kind of noise that cuts through your bones like a snapped guitar string. You feel it before you hear it. By the time I got out of the truck, the engine was still running. Elena was on the porch, slumped, one hand on her stomach, the other bracing herself against the steps. Blood streaked down from her nose, dripping onto the welcome mat, her welcome mat. Ray stood frozen in the doorway, holding what looked like a trowel and a half-eaten protein bar. I ignored him. "Elena," I said, crouching fast but controlled. "Talk to me." She blinked, winced. Her eye was already starting to swell. "They came to give a warning," she rasped. "Then one pushed me." "Who?" "They said they were with the HOA. 3 guys in polos, khakis, and fake authority." She'd opened the door. They hadn't expected her to hold her ground. One leaned in too close. She told him to step back. He didn't. She raised her voice. He shoved. She fell. It wasn't a fight, it was a message. And they left a clipboard on the porch like a trophy. Ray stepped out behind me, chewing like his jaw was unbothered by the scene. "What the hell happened?" "They jumped her," I said. "Said it was about the lawn." Ray looked at the grass like it had betrayed us. "It's a little tall," he muttered. "Okay, it's ankle aggressive." I stood slowly, calmly. Every muscle in my back was tight. The clipboard sat neatly on the edge of the step, titled Compliance Violation Form 113C. The offense: lawn exceeds height threshold, violates visual harmony standards. Ray peered over my shoulder. "What does that even mean?" "What is visual harmony?" "It means they think we won't fight back," I said flatly. Ray gave a low whistle. "Karen's escalating." Karen Trammell, HOA president, clipboard queen, bylaw bully with a martyr complex and a laminated name badge she probably sleeps with. 2 weeks ago, she left us a flyer titled "Community Pride Starts With You" translation, "Mow or else." Elena had laughed, said the garden was growing faster than the baby, then she'd gone back to planting wildflowers. Now she was on the porch with a broken nose because we hadn't trimmed the damn yard. I flipped the form over. At the bottom, in tight legalese, "Compliance team encountered resistance. Minimal force applied." Minimal force? There was nothing minimal about the blood on her shirt. I clenched the clipboard until it cracked. Ray tapped his phone. "Porch cam's been down. Birds nested on the lens again. I'll check the side yard footage." I walked inside, got Elena to the couch, applied ice, checked her pupils, monitored her breathing. She waved me off like I was being dramatic. "You should see the other guy," she mumbled. Her humor was intact, but her hands still trembled. "You dizzy?" I asked. "Just sore," she said. I glanced down at her stomach. "We need to get you checked. Make sure the baby's okay." "I'll call Dr. Harker," she said, brushing hair off her forehead. "They'll squeeze me in." I nodded, but I didn't feel relief. I felt fury. Because if anything had happened. I didn't finish the thought. I didn't have to. She was 5 months pregnant. She shouldn't have had to face a fight on our porch over a lawn, and I shouldn't have left her alone. I walked back out. The sky was that dead heat blue, cloudless and watching. I stood where she'd stood, traced the boot scuff on the top step with my heel. They'd knocked hard, not like a neighbor, like debt collectors or worse, like they were entitled to be there. I looked at the grass. Maybe it was tall, but grass doesn't shove people, and compliance doesn't come with bruises. This wasn't a warning, it was bait. Ray stepped back out. "Nothing useful on the cams, but I've got a name. One of the guys is on her fake HOA site, calls himself a compliance resolution officer. Real title? Night security at a closed strip mall." "So, muscle," I said. "Fake muscle," Ray replied. "Karen's hiring intimidation now." I nodded, thought about that clipboard, The boxes they checked: obstructive behavior, aggressive resident. Situation escalated. They were building a narrative, making Elena look like the threat. Ray leaned against the railing. "You want to call the sheriff?" I shook my head. "I want to know how many of these reports she's filed and how many people signed them." He smirked. "You want records? That means you want war." "No," I said. "I want a scalpel." Because they didn't send uniforms, they sent men with no names, no badges, and no authority, just a fake clipboard and a real shove. They walked up our driveway thinking the grass was the problem, but the problem was never the lawn. It was them, and they had no idea what they just stepped into. Because what happened next wasn't about the lawn, it was about the lie they thought they could get away with. It took exactly 14 hours for Karen to file the complaint. 14, not even a full day after 3 of her hired goons shoved a pregnant woman onto her own porch. She was already spinning the story, polished, packaged, weaponized. Ray handed me the printout like it was laced with poison. "You're officially HOA enemy number 1, he said. I'd say congrats, but I don't think they sent cake. According to her incident affidavit, I arrived home in a hostile state, that I shouted, that I advanced toward her compliance team in a threatening manner, that I used military-grade intimidation tactics to interfere with a lawful property citation." Military-grade intimidation tactics? I've heard cleaner lies from enemy captains during ceasefire talks. And the real kicker? She didn't just file a complaint, she filed a record, a full submission to the county compliance board and the sheriff's office, complete with 3 fake witness signatures, a second citation form, and a box check that said, "Resident demonstrated obstructive, hostile behavior, advised for temporary detainment pending mediation." Ray pointed at the timestamp. "Filed before sundown. Fastest bureaucracy I've ever seen. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much." "She's building a profile," I said. "She's writing your obituary," Ray muttered. "Ray got it from someone on the HOA board," I added. "Anonymous forward. Probably someone scared she's going to take them down with her." Because this wasn't about the lawn, it was about character assassination. The slow, surgical kind. The kind that left just enough paper trail to keep her hands clean and mine cuffed. The unmarked cruiser pulled in just after 1 p.m. Quiet. No sirens, just a dull engine idle and 2 doors opening like punctuation marks. The older deputy looked tired but smart. The younger one, sharp jaw, fresh buzz cut, boots laced a little too tight, rookie vibe all over him. I stepped outside before they could knock. "Mr. Holden?" the older one asked. "That's me. We'd like to ask you a few questions about a report filed by your homeowners association." "What kind of questions?" "Alleged threats, interference with citation procedure, non-compliance with a lawful inspection." Buzzcut cleared his throat like he'd practiced that line in the mirror. I stood still, didn't cross my arms, didn't flinch. "Do I need a lawyer?" "You're not under arrest," the older one said. "We're just asking for clarity." Behind me, Ray stepped out with his phone already recording. "Clarity, huh?" he said. "That before or after the HOA gets their version of the story posted online?" Buzzcut shifted. "Sir, we're simply asking Mr. Holden to come down voluntarily." "And if I say no?" I asked. The pause told me everything. "Then we'd have to escalate," Buzzcut said carefully. There it was, that word again. I nodded once. "Give me a minute." Inside, Elena stood halfway down the stairs, her face bruised, her body still tense. "You're going?" "I won't give her the optics she wants," I said, not yelling, not resisting, just going. She came closer, took my hand. "You sure this is smart?" "No," I said. "But it's controlled." She looked up at me. "Please don't let them spin this into something it's not." "I won't let them touch the truth, I promised." Ray handed me my keys and a look. "If they try anything in that room," he said, "just remember who's got access to the real HOA files." The cruiser ride was quiet, too quiet. I didn't ask questions, didn't make small talk. I just stared out the window at my own neighborhood like it belonged to someone else. Fences, driveways, garden gnomes guarding plastic welcome signs. None of it looked familiar anymore. I pictured Elena on the porch again, her lips split, hand on her stomach, trying to look stronger than she had to. And something hardened behind my ribs. This wasn't about appearances anymore, it was about control, and I was done letting someone else write the narrative. They didn't put me in a cell. They put me in a gray room with one chair, one camera, and no clock. They left me there for almost 90 minutes, long enough for the walls to do their job, long enough for someone outside to think the silence would get to me. But I've been in darker rooms with fewer walls. When the older deputy finally walked in, he didn't carry cuffs, he carried a file and a bottle of water. "Mr. Holden," he said. "Let's just talk." I didn't say anything, just waited. He sat down, opened the file, cleared his throat. No record of previous incidents, no red flags, nothing to indicate you're a threat. "Then why am I here?" I asked. He glanced at the mirror, not me. "Because sometimes it's not about truth, it's about ticking boxes fast enough to avoid a lawsuit." I tilted my head. "And what box does this conversation tick?" He hesitated. "Karen's report alleges you used threatening body language, stepped aggressively toward her team, used your service background to intimidate." "That's not illegal," I said. "No, but it's concerning." I leaned in half an inch, let my voice drop an octave. "Deputy," I said, "if I'd wanted to intimidate anyone, they wouldn't be writing reports, they'd be writing wills." He froze. I didn't blink. "You're free." "You're free to go," he said after a beat. "No charges at this time, but the complaint's logged." "Good," I said. "Then it's on record, and so is your department's neutrality." Ray picked me up outside. He didn't smile, just handed me a black coffee and kept the engine running. "She okay?" he asked. "Doctor said the baby's fine." "Elena is still mad I didn't punch someone." Ray cracked a grin. "That's how you know it's real love." I sipped the coffee and looked out across the gravel lot. Karen had taken her shot. She'd filed a lie and turned it into legal bait. But she forgot something. Elena had risked everything just opening the door that day. So now I was writing a report of my own, in a language Karen wouldn't understand until it was too late. Because if she thought a form could define who I was, she'd forgotten what happens when a soldier writes one of his own. Some people hear the words holding cell and picture concrete, steel bars, some guy 2 bunks over screaming at the wall. I don't. I picture silence. Deliberate, weaponized, cold enough to freeze your thoughts before they form. They didn't book me, didn't fingerprint me, didn't even check for weapons. They just sat me in a side room with a vent that whispered like it was eavesdropping. No charges, no questions, just a door that clicked shut with more confidence than the men who closed it. The lights overhead buzzed, not loud, but constant enough to fray something in the back of your brain. It was designed to make people twitch, to make people talk. But I've sat longer in darker places with more on the line. I don't fidget. I don't talk to fill air. I let them wait. 90 minutes is a long time to leave someone sitting in a chair with no phone, no clock, and no voice. But for me, it was fuel. I used that time like a recon op. Every creak in the hallway noted, every click from the air vent logged, every second of silence, that was my briefing. It gave me time to think, not about Karen, not about the clipboard or the coward she hired with a fake badge and real hands. I thought about Elena. She'd stepped onto that porch knowing she was alone, knowing they weren't real officers, and still she held her ground. She didn't cry when I found her. She didn't scream. She just bled quietly. That's the part that stuck with me. The quiet. The same kind of quiet I'd heard before. Kandahar, 2010. We were clearing a corridor used for weapons trafficking, the kind of place where kids wave and smiles hide grenades. We had one informant, half trust, no cover. The building was a broken box of clay and rebar. When we breached the courtyard, Carter, our youngest, was the first one through the door. I saw it before he did. A kid, no older than 12, wires down his arms, eyes glassed over. I hesitated, just long enough to consider how to stop it, not if, how. That pause. It cost Carter his life. Blew him 6 feet backward into the dirt. I still see the arc his body made. Not a scream, just a stop, like God hit pause. Back in that cell, I could feel it again, that moment, that pause. I promised myself I'd never freeze again. But yesterday, I wasn't home when Elena opened the door, and now I was in a box of my own making, watching someone like Karen Ray draw the borders of our life. The door opened. Deputy Gray Eyes stepped in, file folder, water bottle. He didn't look smug, he looked tired. "Mr. Holden," he said, "you're free to go." I stayed seated. Why was I here in the first place? He paused. "Sometimes we get paperwork that says jump, and we don't ask where." I tilted my head. "Karen's not a judge." "No," he admitted. "But she knows which levers to pull." I stood, stepped just close enough to lower my voice without raising it. "You want my advice?" He added. "Not particularly. Keep your distance. Let it cool off." "I don't do cool," I said. "I do complete." And then I left. Ray's truck was waiting like a loyal dog at the edge of the curb. He didn't speak until I buckled in. Then he handed me a stick of jerky and said, "Well, they didn't kill you, so that's a win." "Depends on who you ask." He glanced at me sideways. "You didn't punch anyone, right?" "Not yet." We drove in silence for a few minutes, then Ray cracked his knuckles and said, "You ready to start digging?" I nodded. "You still have your access to the public records database?" He grinned. "Oh, we're past public. I know where Karen buries things." Back at the house, Elena was waiting on the porch. She didn't smile when she saw me, she just stepped forward, handed me a manila folder, and said, "I found something." Inside? Every HOA complaint filed against our property for the last 6 years. 38 reports. Most of them worded the same. Most of them leading to fines. Some followed by notices of lien threat. Ray read over my shoulder. "The previous owner didn't move, he was pushed." "She's not running a neighborhood," I said. "She's flipping it." "She's not documenting problems," he added. "She's manufacturing them." "This is your blueprint?" Ray asked. I shook my head. "No. It's her confession." That night, I stood in the hallway outside our bedroom and looked at the walls we'd painted together, the pictures we'd hung, the laughter we'd shared. I imagined Elena standing there one morning and not knowing if we'd still own this place by sundown. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It wasn't rage. It was survival. And I was going to make sure the next knock on our door was mine. Because I wasn't in a cell, I was in a war room, and Karen had just made the mistake of letting me build the battlefield. Elena didn't say much the next morning. She brewed coffee, stared out the window, moved like every joint hurt but with purpose. Her face looked worse in daylight. The bruising had set in hard and ugly, purple and yellow sweeping across her cheekbone. One nostril was swollen shut, her lips split at the edge. Still, she buttoned her flannel all the way up and walked barefoot into the yard to check the tomatoes. She didn't flinch from the sunlight, she didn't slow when she knelt in the dirt. I didn't say anything at first because I recognized the quiet. It was the kind of silence that came after something inside you had snapped and before you started planning what came next. Ray showed up just after 9 a.m. He didn't knock, just walked into the kitchen holding a USB drive like it was the last vial of antidote in a biohazard movie. "Got it?" he said, flipping it once before sliding it across the table. "Admin passwords, Karen's emails, the HOA roster, real one, not the one they give the board." "You break anything?" "Only my own moral compass." "You mean you had one?" He grinned. "Low bar." Elena came in behind him, barefoot, dirt on her fingers. She poured herself coffee, didn't say a word, just nodded at the drive like she already knew what was on it. Ray raised an eyebrow. "She's been like this all morning," he said. "She's processing, I said. No, Elena said, setting her mug down. I'm remembering who I am. We moved to the dining room table, which by now had become a command center, half tech lab, half evidence wall. The manila folder from before was now joined by Ray's laptop, my legal pad, and a whiteboard we stole from the shed. Elena laid everything out like a military operation timeline, target, pattern, motive. Ray added digital threads, domain names, shell corporations, document signatures. We weren't just speculating anymore, we had evidence. Karen had filed over 38 violations in 4 years, 6 different homes, 5 of them bought at auction through the same Delaware-registered LLC. Elena circled it in red marker. This is her exit strategy, she said. She destabilizes property value with HOA violations. Ray added, then scoops the house up through the LLC when owners default or panic sell. I stared at the name, Grey Rock Ventures LLC. You trace it? I asked. Ray turned the laptop toward us. A flowchart bloomed across the screen, ownership layers, domain registrars, mailing addresses. At the very top, Catherine L. Trendle. Elena was right, I said, standing. She's not a board member, she's a predator. She's laundering neighborhoods, Elena added, one family at a time. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. Ray leaned back in his chair. So, what's our play? Simple, I said. We turn her system against her. That's when Elena stood up and rolled her sleeve. She had another bruise on her arm I hadn't seen yet, smaller, meaner. Ray noticed too. Jesus, you didn't say. I don't need to say, she replied. I just need to act. That was the moment, the click. I've been angry, focused, tactical, but she was cold, calm, surgical. And I realized then Elena wasn't just healing, she was arming herself. We got to work. Every digital thread Ray pulled got mapped on the board. Every legal reference Elena found got color-coded by violation type. I combed the county civil filing database and found 3 suits dismissed by technicality, 2 of them by the same local judge, one who Karen had donated to during his last campaign. Of course, I muttered. Elena looked up. Favor for a favor? No, I said. Yet she hasn't called in yet. Ray slid another document across the table. You want a deeper cut? Always. He pointed to the deed of the house next door, recently vacated, bought through a blind trust under the trust, Grey Rock. She's working her way here, I said. House by house, until we're boxed in. She already tried, Elena said, touching her face. She just didn't count on hitting the wrong family. We stayed up late that night, longer than we should have. I made coffee at midnight. Elena finally sat back at 2 a.m., her hair tied back, her fingers stained with red Sharpie and printer ink. Ray had passed out on the couch, snoring like a chainsaw with asthma. And still, Elena kept working. Because something had changed in her, and I think she knew it too. She wasn't just defending her home anymore, she was hunting. Around 3 a.m., I joined her at the table. She didn't speak, just handed me a photo, a screenshot from one of Karen's deleted emails, recovered through Ray's forensic software. It was a letter of intent to buy our property from 3 months ago, time-stamped, signed, pending owner instability. That was the moment I felt it, that quiet switch flip. Not rage, not even fear, just the knowledge that the fight had already started. We'd just been late to the battlefield. Because when someone plans to take your home before you've even been pushed out, you don't ask questions, you lay traps. There's a moment in every fight when it stops being personal and becomes surgical. Not rage, not revenge, just math. You know their timing, you know their tools, and once you know how someone operates, you don't scream, you document, you measure, you wait, and then you dismantle them one violation at a time. Ray was already on his second cup of coffee when I came downstairs, no shirt, laptop on his thighs. He duct-taped an Ethernet cable to the floor like he was building a crime lab out of a living room. Elena didn't say much. She was on the back porch pacing, Bluetooth in one ear, clipboard in her hand. Her lips moved fast, half code, half legalese. She was already 3 moves ahead. I threw on boots and headed for the courthouse. Didn't call ahead, didn't tell them who I was, just walked in straight backed and asked for property records, complaint filings, and homeowner association declarations for the Maple Hollow overlay zone. The woman at the desk looked nervous, probably not used to guys with military posture asking for bylaws. It took me 2 hours to dig, but what I found was a paper ghost. Catherine Trammell's name didn't appear anywhere, not on the deed of her own home, not on the HOA board roster, not on the operating charter. She wasn't just hiding, she'd made herself untouchable. Back at the house, I dropped the file on the table. "She's a ghost," I said. "No ownership, no paychecks, no voting records, nothing." Elena was already flipping through the pages. Ray looked up. "She's not a ghost," he said. "She's a shell. You ever hear of graybox social engineering?" I blinked. "No, but I'm guessing that's a Ray thing." He spun the laptop toward us. Karen's emails route through a proxy server based in Delaware. Her HOA domain was registered with the burner address. Her business filings list an LLC, Grey Rock Ventures, that's legally owned by another LLC. "Let me guess," Elena said, "also in Delaware." Boom, Ray nodded. "She's a phantom," I said, "but not invisible. She leaves fingerprints, and we've got them." That night, we laid it all out like a case brief. HOA violations Karen filed, names of former residents she pressured out, the exact days fines were issued, followed by offers to buy the homes, screenshots from online listings. Cross-ownership filings that proved Grey Rock Ventures was her real operation. The math was clean, the motive ugly. "She's targeting the vulnerable," Elena said. "Widows, seniors, veterans. She's flipping her neighborhood like it's a foreclosure factory." Ray added, "but doing it with rules instead of sledgehammers." I stared at the whiteboard. "Then let's turn her rules into knives." I spent the next morning walking the sidewalks of her street, clipboard in hand. I measured light encroachments, overgrown vegetation, decorative signage. Karen had a rock fountain 4 inches taller than zoning allowed. Her backyard shed was 15 inches too close to the fence line. One of her motion sensor lights pointed directly at her neighbor's window. All of it violations. All of it on camera. I submitted the complaint in person, used her exact template, her words, her phrases, even the same phrasing from the verbal escalation clause. The clerk looked confused. "Wait, this is about the HOA president?" "No," I said. "This is about a woman with a clipboard who thinks she's above the law." I didn't smile. I didn't need to because I could already feel the flinch. Ray logged everything into a private server, every submission, every timestamp, every photo. "Just in case this becomes courtroom art," he muttered, uploading backups to a military-grade drive he kept in a Pelican case. Elena filed open records requests. 3 former neighbors responded by dinner. George, a former Marine, sent his citation record, 15 violations in 1 year, all for unauthorized external ornamentation. "You mean his wife's flower garden?" I asked. "Yep," Ray said. "Colorful petunias, real national threat." Elena printed it, pinned it under psychological targeting. And just when the night felt like ours, she pulled in. Karen's silver sedan, clean engine purring like a cat with teeth. She didn't get out, didn't roll the window down, just idled, watching. I watched her back, didn't move, didn't wave. I just stood in the window, lights off, arms crossed, and met her stare with one of my own. 5 minutes passed, then she drove off. No rush, no fear, just calculation. She was measuring us, but she'd already miscalculated. Because we weren't filing complaints anymore, we were pulling the trigger. What she didn't know was the next file submitted to the county wouldn't be a complaint, it would be an expose. Some wars aren't won with weapons, they're won with paper, with whispers, with fear. Karen didn't need guns to flip this neighborhood, she used procedures, policies, the illusion of rules. But now we were flipping the mirror. We weren't coming for her behind closed doors anymore, we were going public. Elena printed the first flyers at 2 a.m. Red lock headline, clean font, unapologetic language. Did you sell your home after an HOA violation? Have you been cited before receiving a kind offer to buy? Below that, the details, Karen's signature on multiple violation notices, ownership transfer dates to the same LLC, anonymous statements from homeowners who had mysteriously chosen to move. At the bottom, an email, truthmaplehollow@protonmail.com. We weren't threatening, we were inviting. And nothing terrifies a controller like transparency. By dawn, the flyers were on 83 mailboxes, 16 windshields, and the community bulletin board at the entrance of the golf club Karen loved to parade around in. Ray thought it was overkill. I told him it was reconnaissance. At 9:11 a.m., a neighbor across the street tripped one down, crumpled it, and walked back inside. 10 minutes later, another neighbor folded hers gently and tucked it into her purse like a secret. We weren't just planting seeds, we were exposing roots. By lunch, the inbox lit up. Names, addresses, screenshots. Some people were scared, some were furious. One email came from a woman who had lived there 12 years. She'd received 3 violation notices in 1 week, noise complaint, hostile decor, a political flag, and obstruction of sidewalk view, for a tree. That's when the friendly offers to purchase started, warnings about further legal actions. I cried the day I signed the sale papers, she wrote. I thought I was going crazy. Now I know I wasn't alone. That night, Elena compiled it all. She built a timeline that spanned 2 walls. Ray mapped the LLC network like a battlefield blueprint. Me? I walked down Catherine Street, clipboard in hand, phone in the other. I took photos of every infraction I could find, her light posts, her non-native plants, her yard flags, her security cameras. She'd built her power by betting no one would fight back, but I wasn't fighting her, I was replicating her system and aiming it back at her. Ray posted the teaser at 5 p.m. sharp. If your house was next, wouldn't you want to know? Click here to view the map. It was encrypted, masked, proxy rerouted, but it was public. The first wave hit fast. Neighbors flooded the local forum. Why is my house on this list? Why are there multiple complaints in my file I never saw? Who is Catherine Trammell really? One post just said, she got my husband to move out during chemo, and now she's selling our house. It wasn't just anger anymore, it was awakening. Karen's mask was cracking, and she felt it. The next morning, we got hit with a new violation, unauthorized community-wide slander via distributed materials. Ray laughed so hard he spilled his coffee. She's citing us for telling the truth, he choked out. She's making a mistake, I said. She's getting desperate. Then we saw the update. Buried on the HOA's website 2 clicks deep, Emergency Authority Directive, Board Authority Consolidation for Duration of Crisis Escalation. Translation, Karen just gave herself absolute power. Ray frowns. She's setting up martial law in a neighborhood with lawn gnomes. She's preparing to cleanse the battlefield. Us first, Elena added. So we uploaded everything, the full map, the documents, the testimonials. Karen's signature on 87% of the citations issued since 2019. We included a video of Elena reading from the charter, calm, precise, focused. There is no clause that allows the HOA president to suspend due process, she said into the camera. If there were, this wouldn't be a neighborhood, it would be a regime. By sunset, the subreddit had exploded. One user dug up Karen's college expulsion. Another posted satellite images showing her backyard had an unpermitted addition. Even Karen's friends were bailing. But she wasn't gone. No, she was just getting started. At 10:03 p.m., a car pulled into our driveway. We watched from the window. Not Karen. A man in a pressed suit, HOA logo lapel, folder under his arm. I stepped out before he knocked. He smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Mr. Holden? We're issuing a cease and desist from the HOA, from outside counsel. Did Karen send you? I represent the board. No, I said. You represent a woman whose empire is rotting. He opened the folder. Legalese, accusations of slander, digital harassment, threats of suit. I skimmed it, then looked him in the eye. You know what this is? I said. He blinked. A scarecrow, I said. Looks official, but it's hollow. And it only works if I believe it. I handed it back. Tell Karen the wind's picking up. Because she hadn't sent a lawyer, she'd sent a warning. And the next knock wouldn't be paper, it'd be personal. The neighborhood got quiet. Too quiet. No citations, no emails, no cars cruising past with clipboards and concerned smiles. Even the subreddit slowed. Ray checked it hourly. Nothing. Karen had vanished, which meant she wasn't retreating, she was reloading. I don't like it, Elena said. Neither did I, not because we didn't expect retaliation, but because we knew she was waiting to make it look justified. Ray called it the ghost calm. I called it the Delaney's, 80-something, sweet as pie, the kind of neighbors who still sent handwritten birthday cards. Now their front yard looked like a raid had been carried out with bulldozers. Flower beds torn up, porch rail half-sawed, back gate dangling sideways on its hinges. Mrs. Delaney stood in the middle of it all, still in her slippers, shaking, not from fear, from rage. They said my porch was unsafe. She spat. Said they had authority under the HOA's emergency clause. Just started ripping it apart. I scanned the yard, saw the tire tracks, 3 trucks, no logos. Then I spotted them, 2 men in bright yellow vests standing at the edge of the lot, clipboard between them, laughing. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. Who sent you? I asked, walking over. One glanced up. Just following the new compliance policy, sir. What policy? Emergency community realignment? The other said. He didn't even flinch when he said it, just kept chewing gum like this was a joke. That's when I saw it, the busted concrete planter under his foot, the one Mrs. Delaney had painted by hand. He shifted his weight onto it and said, if she didn't want enforcement, maybe she should have stayed in a retirement community. I didn't remember moving. I remembered the crack, flesh on bone, knuckles, jaw. The clipboard flew before he did. He hit the grass hard, arms windmilling, his head bounced once, shoes slipped in the mud. Ray yelled something, Elena shouted, but I was already walking away, didn't look back, didn't regret it. Because in that moment, he wasn't just some smug enforcer parroting HOA policy, he was the man who'd hit my wife. He was every fist I hadn't blocked, every second I wasn't there on that porch. And for the first time since this started, I stopped holding back. Ray caught up to me. You good? I didn't answer. You know that might give her ammo, right? I nodded. Still worth it, I said. Back home, Elena didn't scold me. She just looked at me with those calm, unblinking eyes. You snapped? Yeah. Do it again. If it was you on that porch, I said, I'd bury him. She didn't respond. She didn't have to, because she knew this wasn't about control anymore. This was personal war. We responded the only way we knew how, with proof. Ray scrubbed footage from a neighbor's ring cam showing the clipboard guy laughing as the porch was marked condemned. Elena uploaded it with a quote, "This is what community care looks like under Catherine's emergency authority." Within hours, the subreddit was on fire. By nightfall, we were heading to the HOA meeting. The community center was packed. Dozens of neighbors, phones out, folders clutched, rumors everywhere. Catherine sat at the head of the long table, gavel in hand, calm as ever. I watched her scan the crowd. She didn't see people, she saw risks. "Let's begin," she said. I stepped forward, dropped the folder on the table so hard it rattled the mic. Tax records, fake compliance orders, testimonies, contractor payments, all tied to Grey Rock. Ray added a final cherry, the HOA emergency vote log with a forged timestamp. Catherine didn't flinch. She smiled. "That proves nothing." "No," I said. but it raises enough to collapse everything. Mrs. Delaney stood, her voice didn't shake. I moved for a vote of no confidence. Another voice seconded, and then hands everywhere, even a few of her own people. Catherine stared at them, stared at me, then turned and walked out the side door. No speech, no tantrum, but she didn't walk like someone who lost. She walked like someone who just changed tactics. Open loop ending, but the real storm hadn't hit yet. Because you can only push someone like Catherine into the dark for so long before she drags something worse out with her. There's a moment in war when the enemy stops trying to win and starts trying to break you. Catherine was gone on paper, no longer HOA president, no longer signing fines, no longer pulling strings, officially. But paperwork is just camouflage. People like her don't disappear, they just wait for your guard to drop. Then they strike from the dark. First sign, silence. Second, power failure. At 2:11 a.m., our lights cut out. No storm, no city outage, just dead quiet. Too quiet. Ray checked the breakers. Fine. But then he paused. Jack. We followed his beam down the gravel drive. Cables sliced clean. The line feeding the barn had been cut like surgical thread. Elena. I said. She was already on her feet inside, locking doors, resetting alarms. Boots on, calm voice, but her hands trembling. I watched her clutch her phone with 2 fingers like it might burn her. 20 minutes later, we heard tires, gravel crunching, deliberate, no hurry. I looked through the side window. One vehicle, silver SUV, tinted plates covered with black plastic. Didn't stop at the gate, just smashed through. Wood snapped, metal shrieked, post fell like dominoes. They wanted noise. They wanted us awake. The SUV stopped just short of the porch. Doors opened. 2 men. We got out. Boots, gloves, light vests, blank eyes. No logos, no names, no tools, just presence, like they knew they didn't need weapons. They were the weapon. Ray moved to the side door, shovel in hand. I stepped outside. Slow, deliberate. Elena stayed in the doorway. Hurt to move. Because I knew they were here for her. One of them walked forward, smooth stride, like he'd been here before. The second scanned the porch like he was building a mental blueprint. And then I saw it, a tattoo on the wrist. Same symbol as the enforcers who wrecked the Delaney's garden. Same gloves, same boots, same arrogant calm. You're trespassing, I said. The leader didn't flinch, didn't speak. He just looked past me, right at Elena. Then he said her name. Elena. My vision went tunnel narrow. Because that wasn't just an intimidation tactic, that was ownership. He wanted her to hear it, wanted me to feel it, wanted to remind us that he'd been there. And just for a second, I saw her face again, the night of the assault, blood under her nose, her voice steady but shaking. Me pulling up seconds too late, brakes squealing on gravel, screaming her name. I moved, didn't think. I slammed into him full body force. He hit the ground hard, but he laughed, rolled, spit blood. Then he said, "That all you got, soldier?" I stepped forward, boots against his chest, fist cocked again, but Elena's voice stopped me. "Jack, enough." Ray had his shovel raised. "You want me to crack him? Or is this ceremonial?" The second man raised both hands, no aggression, just mock surrender. He smiled. "Karen says hi." Then they both backed off, got in the SUV, drove off without a word. The gate was gone, so was the silence. Only thing left, a folded paper at the foot of the stairs, weighted with a stone. I picked it up. Next time, I won't knock. Sheriff showed up 40 minutes later. Saw the wreckage, took statements. No leads, no camera footage, no ID, just a quiet shrug. "Contractors get bold this time of year," he said. I didn't reply, because I wasn't thinking about contractors. I was thinking about killing someone. That night, I couldn't sleep. Neither could Elena. She curled up near the door like an animal that knew predators didn't need locks. I sat in a chair, hands on knees, jaw clenched so hard I tasted copper. "I saw it," she said. "What?" "Your face." Right before you hit him. That wasn't anger. No, that was something else. I nodded. Because I didn't want to scare him, I said. I wanted him to disappear. She stepped closer, knelt in front of me, whispered, "That's not who you are." I looked her in the eye. I know. But it felt like the only thing left. And that scared me more than anything Karen ever did. Because when the enemy makes you question who you are, that's when they're closest to winning. Some men scream when they go to war. I go quiet. After the ambush, after the SUV, after the boots on my porch and Elena's name hanging in the air like a dare, I didn't rage, didn't threaten, didn't punch another soul. I poured black coffee into a chipped mug, sat at the table, and stared at the wall. Then I opened my notebook. Page 1, the kill box. Ray looked over my shoulder as I sketched it. "Man, this looks like a tactical raid plan." "It is." He squinted. "Wait, are we the raiders or the hostages?" "That's the trick," I said. "Let her think she still has the upper hand." Ray grinned. "I love this plan. We weren't going to fight Karen anymore. We were going to starve her of oxygen, expose her where it mattered, publicly, legally, permanently. And we'd make her come to us to stop it." The plan had 4 phases: incite panic by filing a grievance with the Inspector General, control the narrative by leaking part of the map to the press, trigger her ego by initiating a financial audit vote, seal the room by trapping her at the HOA meeting, and detonating everything at once. Elena read it, didn't blink. "Let's make sure she can't weasel her way out this time." I remember staring at her while she said it, how calm she looked, how sharp her voice had become. This wasn't about justice anymore, this was about not letting the monster sneak back into the woods. Elena handled the grievance. Ray built the press packet. I delivered the audit motion in person. The secretary at the HOA office blinked like I'd handed her a rattlesnake in a manila envelope. She signed it, which meant Karen would see it by morning. She came out of hiding that same night. Black SUV parked near the clubhouse. Ray spotted her through a trail cam we'd set up just in case. She was pacing, phone to her ear, face clenched. It wasn't power anymore, it was panic. The meeting was scheduled for Thursday. We spent the next 3 days preparing, redacted backups, drive duplications, triplicate video files. Ray even wore his "This Is My Court" outfit t-shirt under his hoodie like a superstition. "You ready for this?" I asked. He held up the drives taped to his chest. "Born for this." The night of the meeting, the community center buzzed like a hornet's nest. People weren't angry anymore, they were curious. Whispers, phones recording, tension thick enough to hold in your hands. Karen walked in late, clipboard, suit, hair tight, but her posture different, defensive. She scanned the room, saw me standing by the projector, saw Elena in the front row, saw Ray holding the remote. Then she saw the reporter, and I swear that's when she knew. Karen opened with control, or tried to. "It's come to my attention that certain residents have acted inappropriately, filing false reports, endangering community unity." Ray muttered, "Here comes the gaslight." Catherine smiled, but as former president, I'm still obligated to advise. That's when Elena stood. "Did that advisory role include hiring unlicensed contractors to cut power lines?" Catherine blinked, a flicker. "I don't know what you're talking about." Ray hit play. The projector lit up a still frame, the silver SUV at our gate. Then video, a phone call recording. Catherine's voice, "Make sure the porch gets tagged. I want them rattled. Use the same guys as before." The room went silent. The reporter stood. "Ms. Trammell, is that your voice?" Catherine didn't answer, because her face answered for her. It fell hard. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. I stepped up. 3 neighbors confirmed your voice. One of them's pressing charges. 2 gave statements to the county. Catherine looked around the room, eyes twitching, pulse in her neck. Then she made her mistake. "You think this will stop me?" she hissed. "You don't get it. I protected this place. I kept it clean. Elena stood beside me. No, she said. You hunted it. Mrs. Delaney raised a hand, clear, calm. I move for a full HOA dissolution and independent oversight vote. Another hand, then 10, then 30. Ray's jaw actually dropped. Catherine backed away from the podium, and I saw it, not rage, not fear, loss. She was already gone. She turned to me one last time, her voice low. This won't stick. I looked her dead in the eye. No, but you will. She walked out without another word, not in handcuffs, not in tears, but her clipboard stayed behind, unclaimed, unimportant. The Inspector General opened an investigation. Grey Rock was subpoenaed. Catherine's financial trail lit up like a flare in the dark. The HOA was officially disbanded and reformed under a neutral charter. Ray declined a board seat. I don't work well with pantsuits. As for me, I didn't feel triumph, I felt stillness, like I'd finally stepped off a battlefield. I didn't realize I'd been walking for months. Elena took my hand as we passed the rebuilt porch. You okay? She asked. I think so. You didn't go too far. I almost did. She squeezed my hand. But you didn't. We went inside. No porch lights out, no cameras missing, no clipped wires, just home. Quiet for once, not the dangerous kind. Until I opened the mailbox 2 days later and found a letter. No stamp, no address, typed all caps, you forgot the camera. Because some people don't disappear, they just wait for the light to fade. And Catherine? She was patient. I used to think war ended when the bullets stopped flying. I was wrong. War ends when you wake up and the only thing that breaks the silence is peace. The morning after the board voted to dissolve, I stepped outside before the sun cracked the hills. No sirens, no shadows, no papers taped to the gate, just dew on the grass and that faint smell of wood stain from the porch Elena rebuilt. The same one she bled on, the same one I defended. The porch was quiet now, but it didn't feel empty. It felt turned. Catherine was gone. Not arrested, not in handcuffs, but shut out. Frozen accounts, subpoenaed records, a reputation scorched beyond salvage. Elena made sure the new charter banned anyone with undisclosed ownership interest from holding office again. She didn't name names, she didn't have to. Ray calls it the clean slate doctrine. He still lives in the guest house, says he likes the goats, says the Wi-Fi's faster here anyway. Last week, he printed the local paper headline, Maple Hollow HOA dismantled in historic neighborhood vote, framed it in reclaimed barnwood, hung it in our kitchen without asking. Now every time I go for coffee, I see it, and I smile. We replanted the tomatoes, same spot, different soil. This time, they held no drones overhead, no violation slips tucked into the mulch, just sunlight, bees, and the sound of Echo snoring under the fence line. And Elena? She laughs more now, still wears her boots around the house, still double-checks the locks at night, but when she walks like someone who no longer expects to be watched, like someone who knows the worst is over. Because it is. The camera was real. The note? Ray traced it back to a third-party supplier used by one of Catherine's shell companies. No threat, just a leftover echo from the war already won. I burned the note in our barrel out back, didn't even flinch. Some enemies haunt you, others you bury. And Catherine? She lost not just her power, her grip, her mask, she lost her control. That's how people like her fall, not when you beat them at their game, but when you flip the board and make them watch as you build something they'll never touch again. So now we wake up early, we grow things, we live. No apologies, no fear, just roots deep in dirt we defended ourselves. And if anyone like Catherine ever shows up again, someone with fake authority and a clipboard full of threats, they won't get a second chance. Because next time, we won't warn them, we'll end it before it starts. I used to ask myself, what kind of man are you when they hurt the most important person in your life? Now I don't ask anymore, because I know the answer. The man who doesn't let it happen twice.